guys, it's Raul here again, bringing you today my spoiler-free review on the Avalon Duology by Mindee Arnett. So this duology, like I mentioned in one of my videos before, is one series that I feel hasn't really gotten much attention here on BookTube, but I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about it at all. This is a young adult sci-fi story about a young man named Jeff, who is part of kind of this rebel group of thieves that work for this kind of villain named Hammer. Hammer kind of sends them off on different missions and different things to do, and they kind of, steal ships and steal different things for this Hammer guy who is their boss, and they kind of, just work for them, and he pays them and that kind of thing. It's set kind of in, like, somewhat of a dystopian world, but it's all in space. I mean, it's after, I guess, the world has ended, or the world, Earth isn't really a part of this story at all, because everything is set in space and in spaceships and different planets and that kind of thing, which is one of the things that I really enjoyed about it, because I haven't really read books set in space, or at least the sci-fi kind of thing set in space, very often, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And this story kind of takes off when his boss, Hammer, sends them on this mission to kind of find this ship that has been lost in space. The thing is that to find this spaceship, they have to cross through this expanse of darkness that is, somewhat similar to the Bermuda Triangle, where a lot of ships have disappeared. People kind of don't come out alive from this kind of expanse of darkness. So they have to go through this expanse of darkness to find this ship and bring it back to Hammer. They're told by Hammer that when they do reach the ship, do not go inside by any means, just grab the ship and come back and bring it back to me. So they eventually, find this ship. They do what typical teenagers do and do not listen to their adults, and they go into the ship, and the things that they find in there are very surprising, and this kind of kicks off the story and where it starts going from. So talking a little bit about the first book, I really enjoyed where this was going and the start to this, because you kind of start seeing a little bit of backstory on the characters, and the fact that they're kind of all alone, and the reasons why they're alone, and they don't have their parents with them anymore. You start to see kind of the struggle within the main character of, coping with this whole not having his parents anymore, having to take care of his little sister, and his crew, this group that he leads of thieves, and kind of him being the leader of the group, still having like his internal struggles and his demons and that kind of thing. I really enjoyed the main character. I mean, he is kind of douchey at some points, but it's never anything that will turn you off completely. It's definitely not something that's going to make you want to stop reading the book because you don't enjoy the main character, because he does have his sensitive side. He do show kind of that emotion in the main character, which I really, really enjoy. Like, he's not completely, made of stone. He really does have emotions and that kind of thing, and I like that they showed that in the main character, regardless of him kind of being portrayed a little bit as a badass. I think it was written really, really well. Very simple. The writing in here is very simple, very easy to understand, very easy to kind of follow and get through, which I really enjoyed. Nothing is really complicated, and I like simple writing. I like really being able to kind of delve into books and read them and not really overcomplicate things with too much fancy writing. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of the book. Another aspect of the book that I really, really enjoyed is that, unlike a lot of young adult fantasy, where you have the main character kind of falling in love with someone, and all of the actions are kind of guided by the love that this person has toward the other person, and I will die for you and go to the ends of the earth for you, and then they get kidnapped, and you gotta save the person that you love. This did not happen, or at least this isn't what the main character's actions were kind of being led by. I mean, there is a love story in there, and the main character does have his love interest in there, but his love interest doesn't really happen up until, I want to say, like 75% into the book. The main reason why this character is being fueled to do the things that he's doing is family. And I absolutely love that aspect of it. I love the fact that he is, on a mission to save his sister, and it was just so good and so well done, and I love that it was different for me. I mean, this is the first book in the young adult genre that I've really, really read that is just, that revolves around family, and that revolves around that love toward a sibling, it was just so good to me, and I loved the fact that they didn't focus on his love interest, but his family. And I loved that family aspect of the series. I loved that aspect of this book, and that's what was fueling him, like I said, to kind of complete his mission. I won't really go into a lot of detail as to, why he's trying to save his sister and that kind of thing, but it's not a spoiler to know that he's trying to save his sister, definitely not. But I won't go into that detail of it because I don't want to spoil it, because I really, really want people to read this series. I absolutely loved it, like I said, and this was definitely a really, really good start to this series. Eventually, in book 2, it kind of, continues on with this story of family and the love that he has towards his family. This book goes more in depth on kind of the threat that's ensuing throughout this series, and it kind of builds upon that. You kind of get new villains and new things that are going on with this that didn't happen in the first book, and it just gets so much more complicated in this book with the main characters and everything that's going on with them, and I really, really enjoyed that it was just action-packed from the beginning. The intro to this, the first chapter, I absolutely loved. After I read this first chapter, I said I knew that this was going to be an amazing book, an amazing second book and conclusion to the series. I loved it. I loved the way that the story was done. I loved the way that the story went. This book, surprisingly, had me shedding a tear. I normally do not cry in books. I normally do not get that emotional in books. I've only ever read 2 other books that have really gotten me that emotional, and this book really got me emotional. For those of you who have read this book, know when I say that you will never look at the story of The Little Mermaid the same way again. It just brings me to tears. It brought me to tears. One scene in this book that I was just like, nope, I had to put it down. I had to give myself a little break, and then come back to it the next day, because it was so emotional. It was so well done. It was so beautifully written, and I loved it. I loved the conclusion to this series. I loved the fact that everybody kind of, came together. All of the conflicts that happened kind of within the crew and within the friendships and everything kind of all got mended again. Everybody kind of, got their redemption, and I thought it was just so well done, so well put together. I don't want to go into too much detail, because I feel like if I do go into a lot of detail, it's going to spoil it for you, but just know that it's just a great book that a lot of people need to read, a great series that a lot of people really need to get into. If you guys enjoy sci-fi and young adult, this is definitely a series that I highly recommend. And with it only being 2 books in the series, it's not too much time that you really have to invest in it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I gave 5 out of 5 stars for both books, because I just absolutely loved this series so much, and I loved that it was different. I think I loved it so much because it was different. I just got, like I said, used to reading all of these kind of generic young adult books, which a lot of them I loved, but I loved that this one was different. If you are a little bit tired of reading kind of the generic young adult stories and storylines, this is definitely something that you will enjoy. I loved it. I cannot rave about it anymore, because it was just so good, so good. I don't know if maybe it's because I was a guy and I loved all of the action and stuff in it. I don't know, but so that is it for my review on the Avalon Duology by Mindee Arnett. I'm sorry that I didn't really go into too much detail on the story, but it's just, I do not want to ruin it for you, because there's so many things that happen in this book that I just want you guys to check out on your own. So hopefully that kind of brief description at the beginning of kind of how it starts and where the story unfolds is enough for you guys to want to pick up this series, because it's definitely worth it. Definitely is. And I think Book Outlet still has some of these books for really, really cheap, because that's where I picked them up from. So if you enjoyed it, pick it up. You won't regret it. I hope you won't regret it. So yeah, guys, comment down below if you guys have read the series at all. Let me know what you think, because I want to gush with you guys about this book. Also, if you guys are thinking about picking up this book now, let me know, and I will see you guys next time.